Hello everyone, I'm Arunima from Knit and Knotter, and this is a support video for making the Disha shawl. Um, I've made this shawl using one wordlet in color passion fruit melt and almost 1.5 wordlets in color rose, and I wanted the shawl to be drapey, so I used a slightly larger hook. I used a 4mm hook. This pattern is made up of the moss stitch, and there's just a bunch of increases and decreases that give it the chevron design. So I'm going to show you how to make that shawl. I'm going to make a miniature version of the shawl so you know how to make it. I'm not going to make the full thing. I'm just going to show you a small version, and I'm going to start with, so in the pattern there are 19 single crochet stitches on one side of the chevron, and for this I'm going to go with 5. You're welcome to use the instructions from the pattern. I have charts and I have written instructions, whichever work better for you. And so for this video I'm going to follow from the chart, and so the way I talk will most likely match what's in the chart. But the instructions, the written instructions, if you follow them, they'll give you the exact same design. So I'm going to start with a chain 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm going to skip 2 and make my first single crochet here in the third. Chain 1, skip 1 and single crochet in the next. So I'm just making my foundation moss row. I have a separate tutorial for making the moss stitch if you'd like to know how to make that, which you're welcome to check out. In this video I'm not going to talk much about that. So there's 3 and then 4 and skip this one, 5. You will have 1 chain remaining at the end of this. So I have this 1 chain here. So before I make a single crochet there, I'm going to chain 2. So that is my increase, and I'm going to make my single crochet here. So that is row 1 and row 2. You can make the exact same thing, it's just that you will have 19 single crochet stitches instead of the 5 that I have here. So now going on to row 3, I'm going to turn, I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then I'm going to make an increase in that chain 2 space. So this was my chain 2 space from the previous row. So I'm going to make a single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in that same space. So then now chain 1, so the chain 1 sits on top of that single crochet, and then find that chain space. So here's my chain space, insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, make a single crochet, chain 1, and do this till the beginning or the end of this row. So I will have 1, 2, so at this point I'm going to make a single crochet here. So this is my so this was the increase, so including that increase single crochet, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochet stitches. And then I'm going to find that chain 2 space here at the beginning. So remember we inserted our hook in the third chain, so that was to keep the space here so I could make a single crochet stitch here. So just remember to not make a chain after this last single crochet that I just made. So I'm going to make a single crochet here. So that sort of works as a decrease. So there was 1 increase on this side and there's a decrease on this side. So I'm going to turn my work, I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to, so there's this 1 single crochet and this other single crochet. I'm going to skip these 2 and I'm going to make my first single crochet here in that chain space. So there's single crochet, chain, single crochet chain all the way to that part where I had made an increase, which is the chain 2 space. So that's 3, 4, and the 5th stitch will be in that. So this is the chain 2 space from that previous row. I'm going to insert my hook here, make a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that same chain 2 space here, and then now chain 1 and single crochet in that chain 2 space from the previous row. So it's a little hard to find this. It gets easier with time, but you're welcome to use a stitch marker to mark that space. So here it is, I found it, but it can get difficult. So if you want to use a stitch marker to identify that chain 2 space, that's totally fine. I didn't need it. After a few rows I got used to it, but you're welcome to use a stitch marker there. So that's end of row 4. So that leaves me with, so there are 5 single crochet stitches here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochet stitches on this row, and there's 2 single crochet stitches over here after the increase. So we'll keep doing this until we have 5 single crochets on this side as well. So there'll be 5 here and 5 here. That'll complete one part of that chevron, and in the case of the pattern you'll have 19 and 19. So but for this I'm going to go ahead and make 10 rows because I have 5 single crochet stitches, so that'll be a total of 10 stitches. That includes the chains and the single crochet stitches. So now here I'm going to do a chain 2 just like 2 rows before this. So this is really a 2 row repeat. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to find that chain space, make a single crochet, chain, and then this is the chain 2 space where the repeat happened, where the increase happened from the previous row. So I'm going to make a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that same chain 2 space, and then I'm going to make the rest of the row with chevron stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one will be that chain 2 space. So this one is easy to find now. So there's this chain 2 space, just pick that up and make a single crochet there. So that completes row 5. I'm going to now turn. So you see that you're decreasing on one side and you're increasing on the other, so that makes 2 parallel lines. And then so here you're decreasing on this side and you're increasing on this side, so this will make 2 parallel lines, and then we're making these increases over here which will eventually make a full chevron. And then once we reach the end of once we reach equal number of stitches on both of these sides, both sides of this increase, then we'll start to make another section. So I'm going to go ahead and make this until I have the 5 single crochet stitches here. The other thing I wanted to point out was that for the entire pattern I've only changed color on this one side, so I don't have to deal with weaving in ends, but you could change on any side. You could use any combination of colors, you could make any number of rows with any number of colors, and it's completely up to you how you'd like to change color. And if you want to know exactly what colors exactly what color changes I made and when I made them, I have mentioned them in the pattern. So here is that. Now I'm chaining 2. So I'm going to make this all the way until I have 5 single crochet stitches on this side, and I'll see you on the other side of this video. I've reached a point where I have 5 single crochet stitches on each side. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4. This technically counts as 1 because I've had a reduce here. So there's 5 and 5. So this side and this side are exactly the same at this point. So now I'm going to go on to the next section. So in the pattern it would be row 38, but over here it's not row 38, but I'm going to show you how to do that, how to make that next chevron on this side. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to make this all the way till the end, so this part remains the same as any previous row. So I'm going to go ahead and make these moss stitches just as I was making them earlier. So that's getting to the chain 2 increase. Here it is. So it's my single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and make single crochet stitches all the way to the end of this row, just like you would make in the previous rows. So here, and now at this point, instead of chaining and turning back, I'm just going to create a longer chain just like we did in the beginning. So I had 12 there, so I'm going to make 12 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then find the third chain from the hook and make a single crochet, and then chain 2, and then make a single crochet in that next chain, and then from this point just make a single crochet, chain, single crochet, chain, single crochet till the end of this chain. So I've already made 4, and now I'm at this last chain here, so I'm going to make 1 single crochet here. And now this is that first chain space that is after where I am, so I'm going to make a single crochet there. And then the rest of the row is built the exact same way as the previous rows, so there's no difference. I'm going to make moss stitches all the way till I reach that increase. I'm going to make my increase there, so here I am, that's a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then continue making moss stitches till the beginning of the previous row. And here I'm going to make 2 single crochet stitches back to back without a chain in between, because that's my decrease. So that's how it's looking. So if you see that there is, this becomes a decrease, so that causes that depression, and this is the increase that causes that that makes these peaks. So if I keep making this, it's going to make that chevron pattern. I'm going to make the first side of my triangle of the Disha shawl, and this shawl is made side to side, so we started from one side and we're going towards the other side now. So I'm going to make the next row just like the previous ones. So this is a very simple repeat. If you understand the increases and decreases in this, it's a fairly straightforward pattern. There's not much to it. You just have to decrease at the peaks and increase at the peaks and decrease at the valleys. And there's some shaping involved to get that triangle shawl. So here, so I've reached this point where I've got to the last chain space of this row. I'm going to make a single crochet there, and because this is a decrease, I'm not going to make a chain. I'm just going to find the next chain space on this side. So here's a single crochet, here's a single crochet, and this is the chain space. So that's where I'm going to make my single crochet. And so just notice that there's no chain in between these two. That is my decrease, and I'm going to continue making moss stitches on the other side. So that's so I made 4 single crochet stitches, and I've reached the point where there's a chain 2 space here. So So I'm going to make my increase there. So that's single crochet, chain 2 and single crochet, and then there's a chain 1, and I'm going to make my single crochet in that last chain 2 space there. Again, it would be a great idea to use stitch markers for these. I guess because I was writing the pattern and I knew before I started what I wanted to do, where I wanted to make my stitches, it was easy to remember. But if you find that difficult, marking the chain 2 spaces, one at the end over here and one for the increase, that would be useful, and maybe one for the beginning chain 2 as well. So those are the places where you'd know where there needs to be a change from the regular pattern. So there's a chain 2 here, there's a chain 2 here, there's a decrease here, a chain 2 here, and a chain 2 here. So that's pretty much all you need to know. Aside from that, you just keep making moss stitches. So I'm going to go ahead, make chain 2 and then a single crochet in that first chain space, and this is my increase. So this chain single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then moss stitches all the way. That's how it's looking. So you keep going like this. You can keep going, making as many. So if you understand the repeat pattern, you could just keep going and add as many as you need. I think this pattern would work with any yarn, so you could use any yarn, but this fingering weight yarn and a little larger hook than was recommended for the yarn makes a very nice drapey fabric. At this point, I'm just going to go ahead, make a few more rows, and then we'll start the other side of the shawl where we'll decrease to make that triangle. I made a few more rows after stopping the video, and I'm going to now, I'm at a point where I'm ready to reduce and make the other half of the triangle. So this will go like this, and then it will converge and it will meet at a point here. So this is where I was increasing my chevrons, and now I'm going to decrease, and this is at a point where it would be row 169 in the pattern. So I will always end on this side, and the next row that I make, I'll stop at this point right here. So there is this increase, the chain 2 for that increase. That is where I'm going to stop for the next row, and I'm going to make those decreases on that side. So I'm going to show you how this side of the pattern will look exactly the same as the previous rows. I'm just going to keep making these moss stitches, keep doing the increases and decreases as I was doing them earlier. So I've made my chain. So this is where I would normally do my increase, like if you wanted to increase this chevron, which I did in the pattern itself, but for this video I'm going to stop here. And so here I'm just, instead of making the single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, I'm just going to make one single crochet stitch, and that's it. That's all I'm going to do. At this point, I'm going to turn around, I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to go all the way back by making my single crochets in chain spaces, and doing the decreases and the increases as the previous rows. And there it is. So here we've started to decrease, and at this point the pattern will start building that triangle towards the side. So I'm going to do a few more rows so you can see how that works. So again, start making the pattern just like the previous rows. So here I am, this was the last chain 1 space, and there's this chain 2 space here. So I'm going to make my last single crochet in that instead of going all the way to this side. And there I'm going to turn around, chain 2, and start making my moss stitches. So that's how it's looking. You can see that this part is narrowing, so it was all the way until here, and now because I'm decreasing, it's starting to narrow. So I'm going to go ahead and continue making this. Turn around, and so I had 3 single crochets there, and now I'll have 1 and 2. So it's a very repetitive pattern. There's not much to think about if you can just remember to do your decreases and increases at the valleys and peaks and the ends. And because it's the moss stitch, you just have to make sure that you're making your single crochets on top of chain spaces and your chains are on top of single crochets. So you don't even need to count your stitches. Once you fall into the rhythm and you understand the pattern, it's really easy to make. So here, a couple more rows. There are times when I forget to make that chain in between single crochet stitches, so I just wrestle with them and try to find the space between them. It doesn't matter too much in the pattern, you can't really see it. So I admit that I have a lot of those in my shawl and it's not even visible. So if you did that, it would be okay to just find some space between the 2 single crochet stitches where a chain would have been normally and make your single crochet there. So the next row that I'm going to make is a little important because it gets a little difficult to see what's going on. So you see that this little space that's left here. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what to do there. So there's, again, this is the exact same as the previous rows. Here is that decrease where the 2 single crochets sit next to each other, and then there's that chain 2 space right here. I'm going to insert my hook here, make a single crochet. So that's my decrease, and then I turn, I chain 2, and then I skip these 2 and make my single crochet in that first chain space. So that's just like how we're doing it on the other end, where we skip those first 2 single crochets that sit next to each other, and then just make moss stitches all the way back. So you see that makes this a really nice straight line. So there you see that this created this nice straight line on this side. So this was the increase. We increased all the way till here, and then we started decreasing, and that formed that little triangle for the shawl. So here is my chevron like this, and then it's like this here, and we're now decreasing on that side. So after you've made that row, the next thing that you'll make is you'll start decreasing from here. So now we've reached that peak again, so I'm going to start decreasing there. So start with the exact same way as the previous rows. So chain 2, single crochet till the end, and till we reach that increase, and here, and instead of making an increase over here, just make a single crochet and stop, and then turn around, chain 2, and then make single crochet stitch or moss stitches till the end. Just follow the pattern the same way as earlier, and there'll be one decrease on every row. Here, one decrease in every row does not mean one single crochet decrease, because the moss stitch is a single crochet and a chain, so effectively 2 rows will decrease 1 single crochet stitch. Same way, continue making the next, and when you reach that end, just make 1 single crochet there and turn around, chain 2. So the decrease in this section is being taken care of at the beginning of the row. So I'm going to make it 1, 2, and that decrease there, and then chain 2 and insert your hook here, chain 1. So this end section gets a little difficult because there's so few stitches to look at, but if you keep following the pattern, you'll be able to figure out all the stitches and where your hook needs to be inserted. So chain 2, and there's this one here, and then there's just that one decrease, and then chain 2, and there's that, and there you go. So that's how it looks. We ended up making a full triangle. So there were increases and decreases. That's pretty much it for making the body of the shawl. The only one thing that I have done after this is that I have made a border over here, a crab stitch border. The reason for that is because I changed color. As I said, I was changing color on this side. So this is how I made it, and this is where I began, and as I was changing color, I was carrying it, so there was a lot of yarn that was carried over here. You could stop at this point if you'd like. You could have cut your yarn and weaved in ends, but I didn't want to do that, so I made a crab stitch border. So instead of cutting and weaving this in, I just continued with my rose yarn, and I made single crochet crab stitches all the way on this edge. So I'm going to quickly show you how I did that. So chain 1, make sort of a reverse single crochet in that previous edge stitch, and then another one, and another, and keep going till the end. So it'll give you a nice little sturdy sort of backbone for this shawl also. And I think in my shawl it looked really pretty. It doesn't really matter where you're inserting your hook as long as you're going one row at a time. I just find that space between the single crochet stitch and the chain space at the end. So this was a very quick border and it hid all my carried over yarn. The best part about this was that I had only 6 ends to weave in because I didn't cut the yarn at any point. The only places that I had to weave in was when I was at the beginning, at the end, and at the point where I introduced my second vourlet. So yay. Almost there. So I have a separate video for making the crab stitch, so a separate tutorial which you are welcome to check out. I didn't really talk about how you make it over here, but it's really straightforward and it's a very handy stitch to know because you can make some very pretty edges with it. And there it is. So I made that edge and I would cut the yarn at this point and weave in all my ends. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And the free instructions for this shawl will be on my blog. I will have a link in the description below, and you're also welcome to check out my other patterns. For this one, I will have 2 sizes, so you can make it in 2 sizes, and any feedback is welcome. So reach out to me if you have any feedback as well. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.